Hey everyone, today's video is going to be completely different from anything I've ever done. I'm going to reveal how I got to Challenger in Teamfight Tactics, and with the new set coming out, it seems like this is a great time to talk about it, so let's just get right into it. I'm BunnyMuffins, I've had 2 accounts in Challenger, and in this video, I'll tell you how I did it and give you some tips on how to climb. I try to teach you guys everything I know. I'm pretty much an open book. I also try to tailor and simplify my guides so that they could work at any level. I try to help the average player by shortening the learning curve and simplifying the game. I've seen so many people reached out on Twitter and Discord saying how I helped them climb a tier, how they got to Masters, and I really do appreciate all these messages. However, I have people who have followed everything I've said and are still struggling in their climb. Unfortunately, there are no tricks or gimmicks for climbing. You simply just have to get better at the game. I know that's not what you guys want to hear, but in order to get a higher ranking in a video game, turns out you have to play better at the game. So let me show you how to do that. If you guys haven't already, I've started an Instagram where I post a bunch of funny content for TFT, so if you are interested in that, link in the description below, but let's just continue with the video. First, let me preface this video by saying that I do play differently than what I preach. For example, I do not follow leveling templates, but I make leveling templates for other players. I do not play the same champions in my composition guides in all my games, and sometimes I roll at different levels than what I say. However, in my guides, I say to play these 8 champions with 1 or 2 substitutions, and I tell you guys to roll at a specific level in each of my guides. Templates are great for getting started, but I always urge people to learn to break the rules once they have mastered the basics. For example, if it was that easy to get to Challenger, everyone would be looking up guides and just copying them word for word, and then everyone would be Challenger, but we all know that's not the case. So you need to do something extra in order to get to the next level. That's not to say watching a guide won't help you get to Diamond, won't help you get to Masters, but anything beyond that, you're gonna have to bring something of your own to the game, or execute each plan completely flawlessly, which is pretty improbable because of how many mistakes people make in TFT, even at the highest level of play. Because again, Teamfight Tactics is so variable and situational that there isn't a one-size-fits-all strategy at high levels. In TFT, the person who makes the fewest mistakes will generally climb the fastest. I make these guides because I give you strategies that do not punish you if you mess up, and each mistake is less costly than had you tried to play perfectly. For example, playing flexibly is the optimal way to play the game. There's no getting around that because you can't always get the same champions every game, so forcing a comp completely out of the question if you want to play perfectly. But guess what? Tons of top challengers, tons of top ranked players, they all force compositions, and only a few actually play flexibly. Keep in mind, not even high-level challenger players have the time to learn the ins and outs of every composition. So imagine if you're just a casual player and you want to get to challenger. If you have a full-time job, you probably can't dedicate enough time to master every composition and perfectly flex every comp. That's why I always suggest maybe playing only a couple of comps at a time. When you're playing in Challenger, it is so much more than knowing the champions, leveling, and rolling patterns. You need to know the ins and outs of positioning, power spikes, alternative items, alternative pivots, all-in thresholds, and much, much more. You also have to combine this with each draw that you're given in the game and try to optimize it to build the strongest board. Again, this is generally why I recommend sticking to only one playstyle and mastering maybe 1 to 3 compositions at a time if you actually want to climb. Then once you're a Grandmaster, you could start considering to try playing flexibly. Note that I'm not saying that no one should play flexibly before Grandmaster, but if you want to climb, you probably shouldn't. There are some prerequisites I had that really helped me get to Challenger, but before we get into that, if you are new to the channel and you want to get better at TFT, make sure to subscribe. If you're liking this video so far, go ahead and hit the like button, and after you watch the whole thing, ask me any sorts of questions you have in the comments. Now that we have that out of the way, let's start with some prerequisites to getting Challenger. For me, what's helped the most was knowing how to learn, having lots of free time, and having the drive to get good. Knowing how to learn is probably the most important factor. Challenger is approximately the top 0.01% of the player base, and you should probably have been at least top 0.1% in a different activity to increase your chances of getting Challenger. This goes beyond other games. For example, if you're a top 0.1% in drawing or playing tennis, this will show that you know how to learn and you know what it takes to get good at something. Once you start playing TFT, you can leverage this knowledge of knowing how to learn and get the necessary skills to climb. For me, I was decent at chess and I was legend in Hearthstone. I was top 100 several times. I qualified for many tournaments including HDC Recharge, Gfinity Masters, Vulcan Deck Masters, and ESL Challenger Series in Hearthstone. Luckily for me, Hearthstone and TFT are very similar. They're both games based on resource management and statistics, so naturally most players who are good at Hearthstone are probably going to be good at TFT. Given my experience in Hearthstone, all I had to do was master how to position and learn free-for-all dynamics. Let's say you want to get to Challenger and you've never really really been top percentage in anything else before, that doesn't mean you can't get challenger. You'll just have to work much harder than everyone else and also learn how to learn to get good. Now, the second prerequisite is you need a lot of time to dedicate to teamfight tactics. When I was getting challenger, I wasn't working since I was in between a couple of projects. This allowed me to dedicate 10 to 16 hours a day to get better at teamfight tactics. Some of you will need more time, some will need less, but that's how long it took for me. And even though this is a long time, if you're just trying to get to Diamond or Masters, you don't need to devote this much time. For reference, right now I'm Masters on 2 different accounts, and I don't really play more than 2 to 4 hours a day. A lot of days I don't even touch TFT at all. You could probably get away with playing even less if you don't make content or streaming, but again, since I want to make good content for you guys, since I enjoy interacting with my stream, I'm going to be spending at least some time of my life dedicated to TFT, right? So if you don't stream, if you don't make content, you could probably maintain Masters maybe just by averaging maybe like 5 hours a week, but like we're not getting into that nitpicky of details. Point is, time is pretty important. I devoted nearly 4 times as many hours as I do now just to improve from the top 0.1% to the top 0.01%. This is needed because you better bet that most people in Challenger are putting in at least 8 hours into TFT every day. The last prerequisite I have is a drive to become Challenger. Keep in mind, these hours aren't just like games played. People spend a lot of time watching streams. People spend a lot of time outside the game thinking about the game, theory crafting about the game. So even if you're eating dinner, if you're still thinking about TFT, that time still counts as trying to get better at TFT, just for reference. So the last prereq I had for becoming Challenger is having a burning passion to actually get better at something. And the reason why I say this is a prerequisite, because it makes the time commitment feel like a breeze. If you have this drive, you'll play, you'll watch VODs, you'll theory craft all day and wish you had more hours to do more. When I was playing in set 1, I was pretty much in love with the game. I haven't played any game like this before, and through that, I had time to develop my own personal playstyle. I had pivots written out for different starting items and champions. I manually tracked all my games because no good tracker existed, and honestly, I still wish I had this same drive to get to Challenger, but right now my efforts are focused more on other things in life. I'm working full time. I want to make more content for you guys. I wasn't making content before, and pretty much I just want to spread more of the joy and love that I got from TFT. Let's get into what I did to get Challenger after meeting these prerequisites. So I started off my day with watching one VOD, which took about 20 minutes with fast forwarding. In set 1, I was primarily watching Soju, Alon's Q, and Dark Hydra. The purpose of this VOD review was just to see if anything drastically changed in the meta while I was asleep, while also learning more from better players. Then I actually woke up, brushed my teeth, made some breakfast. Dude, talking about breakfast makes me pretty hungry. Dude, if you guys are hungry and you want to save $7, use my Uber Eats code. I'll leave a link in the description below. But after that, I sat down and played 1 to 2 games on my Smurf. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, you probably want to play on 2 different accounts. One is your tryhard account and one is your test and warm-up account. Generally, these would be around the same rating. In set 1, I was fortunate enough to have both of these in Challenger. Apart from warming up, these games would primarily serve to implement what I learned yesterday, and I have a chance to also practice new compositions. So during this time in set 1, I was playing very flexibly. Flexible TFT is high skill cap, but very punishing to play, but since I was consistently learning, I practiced this playstyle for a long time, it wasn't really an issue. I highly suggest not playing flexibly if you do not have the time to properly learn the game. For example, nowadays I do not play flexibly because it's less stressful to just force a comp, and I can still maintain a decent rank by doing that. So that's why nowadays if you watch my stream, I'm not super sweat flexing everything, I'm just forcing a comp after I see my items after a certain point in the game. So after my warm-up games, I would assess if I was feeling good and ready to play on my main or continue to play on my Smurf. If I was ready for my main, I played on high alert. So I would scout constantly, look for positioning changes every turn, such as Blitzcrank, Zephyrs, checking for uncontested compositions. I was also familiar with every composition so that I could roll 50 gold extremely accurately when I needed to. Nowadays, I can barely roll 20 gold in a turn. This speed just comes purely from practice and expertise and confidence in knowing what your composition needs and what it uses. So yeah, the best way to practice that, rolling 50 gold versus rolling 20 gold, is just playing a crap ton. So there's just no way around that. There are some like speed reading techniques, but we won't get into that right now. Maybe in a future video. So once it came around lunchtime, I'd either reheat what I ate last night or cooked up a new meal. I'd look outside my window for a couple minutes and then eat while watching a stream or a VOD. After that, back to playing either on my main or Smurf. If I wasn't feeling it that day yet, I'd watch 2 to 3 more VODs to learn more about the meta. This process was repeated during dinner, then I'd watch 1 to 2 more VODs before going to bed. This process was repeated daily, apart from like the occasional real life social commitments that I had. So again, like I was in a very lucky position. I was not working but still getting paid. So I pretty much had time to get as good at TFT as I possibly could. A lot of other improvements I made were set 1 or meta specific, so I can't really go into those details right now because they won't really apply to your games today. However, one thing must be stated. A pattern I noticed is that top players have such different playstyles, which shows that pretty much right now anything can work because there's no perfect way to play the game, and people make so many mistakes. Even the rank 1 players, they make a ton of mistakes every game. And because that is true, that just means you could have any playstyle and get to a high rank because you just need to execute whatever you do very, very precisely. So what this implies is that you need to stick to one playstyle and truly master it. I have no idea how many times I repeated this already, not just in this video, but in my other videos on stream, but I still see people chasing one meta composition to the next despite having conflicting playstyles. For example, if you're great at hyperrolling, sure, go from one hyperroll flavor of the month to the next. However, if the next flavor of the month is like a 8-person composition, you might struggle a bit while getting used to different leveling patterns, different power spiking patterns, and it's likely best to just keep hyperrolling if it's still semi-viable. For example, if hyperroll is at least B tier, you probably should just stick to that. This way, once your strategy is back at S tier, you'll climb high and far on those patches. So keep in mind, hyperroll isn't really like a playstyle. I'm just giving you an example. I probably could have thought of a better example, but playstyle goes much more beyond like hyper roll, slow roll, and fast state. Like playing safe for top forwards, greeting for first place, playing comps built around certain items. These are all different types of strategies and playstyles that you could incorporate in your play and really try to master. So that's pretty much what I did every day while I was getting Challenger. Now that we've reviewed that, I'm gonna just name off some random tips and tricks that helped me climb, and hopefully they could help you. So one thing I never did was review any of my old replays. Even though this is suggested by a lot of players, I often already knew my mistakes while playing the game, so I never really found that much value in doing this. I have heard that this is useful, so maybe it works on you. I'm pretty sure this is just dependent on the player. Another thing was back in set 1, my play was much sweatier, meaning that I did things such as like scouting every turn, doing crazy pivots every single game. I pretty much never forced a composition, and I was definitely going more for the high skill cap type of game. And I don't do that anymore. But if you really want to sweat to get to Challenger, like that's one play style that you could pursue. You could also force comps to get to Challenger just as easily. Because again, in the top 10, so many different play styles, so many different comps are being used. You just need to be good at the game. There's just no other way to state it. So another tip I have is only play on your main account when you are well rested and your head is clear. For example, if I wake up and my head is hurting, maybe I didn't get any sleep, overslept, whatever, like probably don't play on your main if you're really trying to sweat that account. My next tip is dealing with loss streaks. So let's say that after a big loss streak that was due to bad play, you might want to go watch some VODs or take a break. However, if the loss streak was due to RNG, feel free to keep playing, because if you're playing well, but you're just not hitting the right cards, it's completely fine to just keep playing and keep doing what you were doing if you were actually playing well. So that's it for my tips. Go forth and use them however you want. Let's now go into why I'm no longer Challenger. So some of you may have noticed that like both my accounts, like I'm just in Masters now for like the past couple of sets. And the primary reason is probably like a loss of drive. Like after you get something, it doesn't taste as sweet the second time. So while I still like to win and I still want to climb, there's like no inner demon motivating me to get to Challenger right now. Again, like it's an achievement I've already done twice already, so it's like doing it a third time, fourth time, fifth time. Like if it happens, great, but I'm not gonna spend 8 hours extra per day to try to get it. Again, I do work full time, so probably devoting 60 hours a week commuting, working hours. I also travel for works a lot, so I have to play on my laptop during the week instead of my desktop. I stream for 12 hours a week now on twitch.tv/BunnyMuffinsLOL. And of course, I can't forget about you guys. I spend a lot of time making guides for you on tier lists, on my website at BunnyMuffins.lol, YouTube, Instagram, and all of this includes like idea origination, scripting, recording, editing. It's a lot of work if you guys haven't actually tried this before, but yeah, there's just too much to do right now, and getting to Challenger just would take too long. I know there are people who can get to Challenger only playing 2 hours a day. That's great for them. Doesn't work for me. Just difference in people. So if you took away anything from this video, I'd say keep in mind that there are many different ways to get to Challenger. My process will work for some, but I do have some advantages over other people that allowed me to get to Challenger much easier than others, such as being good at previous games and having a lot of free time. Let me know how much time you guys devote to TFT and what rank you are, and do you guys want to get to Challenger? If so, What time frame are you looking at? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, go ahead and drop a like. It helps me out a super lot. But that's it for today. I'll see you guys all next time. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And of course, smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.